Let's move ahead now. The layer of fog covering the skies of Delhi has impacted several passenger flights and trains which are facing several hours of delays. Now, according to the Indian Railways, 22 trains are running late in Delhi due to fog. And according to the airport sources, there have been 58 flight diversions from Delhi airport since 25th of December, adding to the ordeal of air travellers. We are now joined by Mr. Jitendra Bhargava, former executive director at Air India, to talk about the difficulties airlines are facing in such foggy weather. Mr. Bhargava, thank you so much for joining us. First question, that Delhi gets covered in smog is not new. We see it every year. But this is still a challenge that is faced by airports and pilots again and again, causing inconvenience to the air travellers, to the air passengers. Do we have a lack of trained pilots? That's the question. That's the thrust of a message coming in from the Delhi airport that, look, it's not us. It's the airlines. It's the pilots who are not sufficiently trained to land in such conditions.
You know, it's an easy thing to say that, look, airlines are at fault or pilots are not available in adequate quantity who are compliant with Cat 3 landing takeoff. Now, what's the system that we have? Delhi airport is Cat 3 compliant, we know about it. Most of the aircraft in the airlines are also Cat 3 compliant. The question is, have adequate number of pilots been trained? Now, question that comes very often is that when you have fog in Delhi with the minima visibility having gone down, now it has a cascading effect on the availability of aircraft. If your flight takes off 5 hours late from Delhi, the next station has an impact, and therefore by the time the aircraft returns in the evening, you've impacted a large number of passengers. Now, our industry has been in growth mode. We know about it. We also know that airlines, particularly the ones which are growing, both Indigo and Air India, have been taking pilots from other airlines. And so the question that comes in, are you in a position to train adequate number of pilots, number one? Number two, can they be rostered on Delhi-bound flights? Now, that's where the problem comes in. The flight schedules are made in certain manner that you have FDTL coming in, you're flying to a certain destination, you need rest there. And even if you have rostered, theoretically on your rostering system that I've got all the pilots, all the flights to Delhi covered, but it does not happen that way. Now, that is where the problem has been there for a number of years. That's why at one time, because Air India had a large number of Cat 3 trained pilots, we said this is the safest airline to fly during the fog time. Now, the second thing that very often has come about here is that appreciation on the part of the passengers has to also come in. That fog is outside the control of the airline industry. Now, what do we do about it? The best thing is to try and avoid morning flights. Now, if you are not going to, you see, the fog can be there from the 6 o'clock flight, domestic operation and so on, till 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock in the daytime.
Sure.
Now, if you have not been able to operate the first 2, 3, 4 hour flights, it has a cascading effect. The experience of the passengers is very adverse. And you must have noticed from the recent survey, which said that 78% of the passengers air travelers had an adverse comment to make as far as the airline comfort of traveling is concerned. Now, passengers have also to be appreciative of the fact there is little that airline can do in these circumstances. It's easy for airports to say to pin the blame on the airlines. I wouldn't dispute that to a very large extent. But the reality is, no amount of pilots, if you have trained for Cat 3, can you ensure they're being operated or put on a flight? Because once the flight schedule goes for a spin, it's difficult to get those regulations in and say, look, I've covered all my flight bound for Delhi. You can't reduce the number of flights. Delhi is India's biggest airport. Most flights operate to and from Delhi. Now, can you curtail the flights? It will have an impact on the fares in that case. So, the best suggestion as I can give as an airline man would be, take it in stride. Airlines work the best to ensure that you are not inconvenienced, because they have no incentive to delay a flight or to club a flight or do anything with the passengers. Just take it and just wish that the flight, number one, the fog control, of course, on Twitter, you have people coming in and saying that, look, the visibility in Delhi has gone down. The IMD is also making a mention of it. Check like we used to check at one time.
Mr.
whether
Bhargava,
the
I'm
flight
afraid I'll
is
just have to
departing on-
come in. I'm being told that we're completely out of time for this discussion. Mr. Bhargava, thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us and shedding more light on this smoggy issue in the national capital. But with that, it's a wrap on this edition of News Center. More news and updates will continue right here on the other side.
CNBC TV 18, embarking on a quarter century of excellence.